I said two myths, and there's another one. And that's the Republican myth. The Democratic myth, the multiplier, means that any spending that they have can be justified because it returns more than $1. It's a magic machine. And not surprisingly, there are many interest groups that depend on that and will defend that perspective. Republican myth is it doesn't matter what the question is, the answer is cut taxes. We have a surplus, we can cut taxes. We have a deficit, we can cut taxes. The problem is they never cut spending. If they would actually cut spending, I'm a fan of tax cuts. I'm a fan of smaller government sector. The problem is our policy is daft. Deficits are future taxes. Taxes have gone up more in the past 10 years than ever in American history, if you think deficits are future taxes. Well, I have the second table on the handout is nominal and real U.S. federal spending per capita. A lot of people say, well, of course our government is bigger, but our population is bigger. All right, I controlled for that. A lot of people say, sure, government's bigger, but there's been a lot of inflation. I controlled for that. So what's happened over time? Well, in 1970, our government spent $1,000 per person. In 2010, our government spends $12,300 per person. Now, the bottom row there controls for inflation. So in 2010 dollars, 1970, that was $5,500. 2010, $12,300. It's more than double. Why is it that people are more than twice as needy now? Controlling for population and controlling for inflation. Why is it that we have allowed that to happen? Well, for a while, it seemed like maybe the Republicans were fighting against that. Sure, maybe all they want to do is cut taxes, but surely they've kept spending down, right? Thanks for playing, but no. Maybe we have some prizes for them. Well, in 1970, as I said, it was $5,500. 1980, it was $6,800. Now, I don't know what you call the 1970s in terms of partisanship. Is that a Democrat or Republican? Hard to know. How about 1980s, though? 1980s are clearly a Republican decade. But spending per capita went from $6,800 to $8,300. It went up by 30%. Between 1990 and 2000, it stayed constant at $8,300. We have had one conservative president over this whole period. His name was Clinton. This isn't even talking about tax increases. I mean, some people say, okay, the reason that Clinton was able to balance the budget was tax increases. In a way, I suppose that's true. Spending was constant. For 10 years, spending was constant. The big increase is between 2000 and 2010. We went from $8,300 to $12,300. Almost 50%. An almost 50% increase in real spending per capita in just 10 years.
Who was president?
The president was George W. Bush from 2000 to 2008, and then some other guy for the last 2 years. Actually, really just the last 1 year. When you think of these as being budgets, these are still George W. Bush budgets. Well, why? What happened? It turns out that the two state-sponsored parties, the cartel that runs our politics, figured out a way to stop fighting. It's just the World Wrestling Federation. It's professional wrestling. I will not cut spending. Spending must increase at all costs. Okay. We're going to cut taxes no matter what it does to the deficit. Okay. They both won. And the sheepish voters kept lining up and voting for the particular guy that they cared about. Ultimate Warrior, yes, I love that guy. I'll vote for him.
Like an action figure?
Well, I mean, maybe it's really fake, but
Jesse Ventura.
he's a funny guy. Well, we have allowed them to make a deal where one side gets to have spending increases forever and buy voters that way. The other has fake tax increase, tax cuts forever and buy votes that way. The result is a deficit because deficits are future.